Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our first ever live question and answer session. I'm Mary Schaeffer, founder of AP Now, and where we focus on all issues related to the accounts payable function. I'll answer as many of your questions as I can, and I reserve the right to say I don't know, because I'd rather tell you I don't know than tell you something that was incorrect. Now, we invited our members to submit questions in advance, so I've got quite a few lined up, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So if you've got a question that you want to ask, please enter it either in the chat box, the comments section, or email publisher@ap-now.com, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Okay, so let's dive right in and let's get going. And if you notice me looking around, it's because I'm trying to check all the different places where you can ask questions, and I don't want to miss any of them. So let's start off with the first one. It's a good one. And what do you think the future holds for accounts payable and the issue of remote work? I think not only the accounts payable function, but the accounting function and, virtually most other corporate functions are going to change, and the ability to work remotely will be available to some of us, not all of us. So what I think this will do is it just adds one more factor into the consideration when you are trying to figure out where you want to work and is this a good job, etc. Some people want to work remotely all the time. Others don't want to do it at all. And ideally, what you want will align with what your company wants. I think that we'll see a lot of change going forward, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, if you go back 2 years before COVID hit and this issue was brought up, 95% of the people you talk to would say, "Don't be ridiculous. Of course, we're not going to work remotely. Accounts payable couldn't work remotely." And now we see, you know what? For many companies, they can. So it's going to be a mixed bag, but it's going to be one more factor that comes into the equation for new employees when they're evaluating a job, whether or not that they can work remotely. And like I say, for some it's a plus, for others it's a minus. I will tell you that we sat down and talked with some AP folks on this on 2 different occasions. So if when this is over, you want to look at the podcast that we have posted, it's episode 104, which we held during AP Tech Week, and episode 78, if you want to hear what some of your peers have to think about the topic. Okay. Next question, and you see me looking around to see what's coming in. Will electronic frauds continue, and will there be new ones? And unfortunately, I wish I could tell you that all these electronic frauds, which are driving the accounts payable community and everybody else are crazy, would end. But A, no, I don't think they're going to end. And B, I believe that there will be new ones, and it will be a little bit, it'll keep us on our toes. And there'll be some new ones that come out of the woodwork that, we don't imagine. But the bottom line is here, yes, I think they're going to continue. Yes, there will be new ones. And yes, this means that we have to continually change, stay alert. We'll have to change our best practices. We will and have to adjust anytime there is a new one. Okay. An issue. Okay, here's our next question, and one that I know is near and dear to the hearts of a lot of our members, and possibly a lot of those who are listening. And that is, what do you think the future holds for the accounts payable function and automation? So let me start off real simple. I think that we're going to have automation in the accounts payable function. It's here to stay. It's like saying, is fraud going to go away? No, it's not. And automation isn't going to go away either. And we just have to adjust. Okay. We all adjusted many moons ago, maybe not some of you, but at least I had to learn how to adjust to, for example, Excel. And actually in hindsight, it made our life easier, and it made us more more productive and more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the same will hold true for automation. That doesn't mean to say that as we move forward with automation, there aren't going to be some rough spots. There will be. But I think, automation is here to stay. Number one, it's getting easier to use. It's getting less expensive. Finally, a lot of the service providers are responding to the requirements of the business community. And so the projects that are out there, they're easier to use. And so all this means is we have to figure out how to assimilate this into our own operations and what that will mean for the future. And it'll mean basically fewer higher level positions. You as an accounts payable professional will be called upon to do more and different types of work, more analytical work. And so you'll always hear me talking about Excel, et cetera, and how we need to know how to use it. And by the way, just FYI, when I say Excel, I just do it because that's what I grew up with, if you will, and that's what I'm used to using. But I also mean Google Sheets, okay? There's a lot of great functionality built into that, and it also makes sharing files easier, etc. So just keep in mind, if I don't, when I say Excel, if I don't also say Google Sheets, I mean it. Okay. All right. And next question, also relating to AP and automation. Does the automation of accounts payable and invoices mean accounts payable will become extinct? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in fact, in the long run, in many cases, I will grant you that there will be some instances where this doesn't happen, but in many cases, this will be a plus for the accounts payable function. We've already seen some of this with our functions being elevated as we went through COVID, and you all did such a wonderful job taking the accounts payable function home and keeping the company running. I think that the accounts payable function it's a plus rather than a minus. Although I'm not going to lie to you, there are going to be some people who will be a negative for. And also, in some instances, the transition isn't going to be smooth. But generally speaking, long-term for everyone, the community as a whole, it will be a plus. There are a lot of other things we do in accounts payable. You're all probably cringing, at least if you're in the United States, as we head on into 1099 time. There's all that reporting. I think it's going to become more important, and a lot more analytical work that we can do also. And if you're an AP subscriber, a member, if you have a paid membership and you've been getting our newsletters, you know that we've been talking a lot about all the different types of analytical work that accounts payable does. And one of the things, by the way, we do a lousy job in accounts payable, I think, of tooting our own horn and pointing out, hey, we do this, we do that, do we do the other thing? And sometimes we need to do a better job of that, definitely. And speaking of Excel, the next question is, how important is it for accounts payable to be proficient in Excel and other analytical tools? And I guess you can kind of guess the answer to that is, I think it's very important that you be good at that. I think that's the wave of the future. And you know what? It's not that hard to use once you learn. And so, I always try and continue to expand my skills in a whole bunch of areas, but that's one way. And there are, like if you don't know where to start, there are a number of good YouTube channels, by the way, that focus on Excel. Some of you may have heard Mr. Excel, as he calls himself, Bill Jelen. He puts out these little short videos, like our accounts payable sound bites, if you will, 2, 3, 5-minute ones. He's got a channel, as do, by the way, a number of other people. So you can gradually learn it instead of, you're looking at it, it's like, oh my God, where do I start? Okay, so no, I don't think it's going to become extinct. And I think Excel analytics really, really important. Okay, here's another question from someone who's dreaming, but probably you're all going to clap hands. And the question is, will 1099s ever go away? And so my answer to that is probably not. And if 1099s were to go away, they would probably be replaced with something that was even more onerous, if you will. Think about what has happened in this last year or two when, we don't have all the reporting done on the 1099 MISC. It's now done on the 1099 MISC and NEC. I think in the upcoming years, it's going to be more complicated rather than less complicated. I don't know when, if ever, our tax system is going to get less complicated. But so do I think 1099s are going away? No, I don't. I think they're with us. I think it's important that those who work in accounts payable know how to do it and keep up to date. But this is one of those areas when I talk about regulatory issues and regulatory compliance, this is where some of the new jobs are going to come. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 109 of the AP Now podcast, it's on YouTube and also our website and also the podcasting channels. You might want to listen to it because I talk about why I think 1099 reporting is going to be really important this year. And rather than belabor the point a second time, here, I'll just point you in that direction. Okay, I see we've got some new folks who joined us. So I just want to remind you that you can ask questions either in the comment box, the question box. You can send an email or to publisher@ap-now.com. And then we're taking them that way. We've had a number of questions submitted ahead of time, and we are also answering whatever questions we can live. Okay. And by the way, I also want to point out that this is a trial session. So if you like this type of program, you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up or send us an email. And again, the email address is publisher@ap-now.com because we're trying to decide, should we do more of these live ones, less of these live ones? Do people like it, etc. Okay. Next question. What is the difference between a podcast and an AP Now webinar? Well, if you've listened to any of our podcasts, you've probably realized that most of them are much shorter than our webinar. Our webinars are either 1 hour long, or if it's a 2 or 3 hour event for something longer, we call it an e-workshop. So there's the time element. And also for the podcast, we cover topics that I want to talk about that I think are important to the community, but really don't fit into the webinar protocol, if you will. So for example, one of the ones we did, we had a few accounts payable professionals talk about what went on during COVID. We did one where we had them from around the world. We actually got people from around the world. Well, I think that's interesting. It's not the type of program that you can go to your boss and ask them to pay for. And it's certainly not the type of program that we can give CPE credits for NASBA. So that's what we really, really like about the podcast. It gives us an opportunity to share information. Some of it's just interesting. Some of it we need, but in that manner. And also we can put it out there, at least on YouTube, with the sound bites in really short pieces of data. I think we have one that's only 2 minutes, but you get the idea. Okay, that's the difference between a podcast and an AP Now webinar. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that we charge for the webinars and the podcast is free. Okay. Are you planning on putting everything on podcast, or will AP Now continue with the webinars? I think the question came from the same person. So real simple answer, we are continuing with the webinars and we're continuing with the podcasts. They give us the opportunity to share different types of information on different platforms. And we like that and we want to continue that. But again, we want to hear from you. If you have opinions one way or the other, we like to try and react to the community as much as we can. Okay, here we go. Oh, this is kind of interesting. It is really easier for us to get invoices in the mail. Can we demand that our suppliers only send invoices in the mail? Maybe. You probably can, especially if you put it in your terms and conditions. But I would strongly recommend that you don't do that. We saw right off the bat, we saw last year with COVID, how difficult it was to get invoices that came through the mail. That's number one. It's also more expensive. It's going to aggravate your vendors. And also, as you go towards invoice automation, it is much easier for many of the platforms, not necessarily all of them, but many of them, to grab information from an email and pull it into the automation solution rather than get that piece of paper, which then has to be scanned so that they can pull it in. So it will aggravate your vendors. And when you aggravate your vendors, you probably aggravate the purchasing department, your procurement professionals. So I would say don't do that if you can possibly avoid it. Learn how to deal with the electronic features. It's the wave of the future, okay? It's like saying, can I keep my money under the mattress? Yeah, but that's not really a good idea, and we know that, okay? And I actually do think we're going to, at some point, get away completely from paper invoices, probably before we get away from paper checks. And you have no idea how much that pains me to say that. All right. Next one. This goes to one of my pet peeves. How many invoices should we expect a processor to handle? And the answer to that is the answer that you hate getting to most questions. It depends. I like to say all invoices are not created equal. So for example, real simple, let's say you're a hospital, because hospitals, it's real easy to understand. And you can have an invoice that has one line item for, let's say, a magazine subscription, or you can have an invoice from one of your suppliers that's cotton balls, gauze, tongue suppressors, and all the other stuff that they order at a hospital. And it has, let's say, 200 line items. Clearly, it's going to take longer to process that invoice from the hospital for the hospital supplies than it is the magazine subscription. So you want to take that into account. So some companies will actually, when they're looking at metrics and they're trying to evaluate how much one person should do compared to another one, they'll measure line items, because measuring invoices can really be misleading. It also depends upon, did it come in electronically? Was it on a piece of paper? Did somebody have to enter the data? Were there a lot of errors, etc.? There are a number of different factors. So the answer to that is there is no answer that's good for the whole community. What many companies try and do is they figure out what their baseline is, what their people are doing, and then benchmark against that, see if we can improve a little bit, but not at the expense of making errors. You'd much rather have somebody who did data entry for you, that they entered data, let's say, at 10 units per minute or per hour, whatever it is, than someone who could do maybe 15 but was making errors, and then you had to go back and correct the work. So everything has to be taken into consideration. Okay, along the same line is the next question, and I think these two came from the same person. What does it cost for a best practice company to process an invoice? And the answer to that, it depends. Okay, so then we not only have the question of what's an invoice. Is our invoice for all the medical supplies the same as an invoice for a magazine subscription? And hopefully not. Hopefully you don't spend the same amount of time processing that. And then there are a whole other set of issues that go into it. What do you mean by processing an invoice? Are you including, for example, signing of checks? If you're issuing a lot of paper checks, are you including putting manual signatures on? If you're putting manual signatures on, what level are you putting manual signatures on? Everything over 10,000, everything over 250,000, etc. So that's one factor. The next factor involves costs. Obviously, if your staff is located in New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles, a big city like that, you're going to probably be paying higher salaries than you are if your accounts payable staff is located in a more rural area. And so right off the bat, your costs can be double one for the other. Same thing with rent. So there are so many factors that go into figuring out what the cost of an invoice is. It's another one of these issues. It depends. Okay. And this person is right. They say you're not in favor of people using their own company credit card when a company offers a card. And this is a two-parter. Why not? Let me address that first. The issue right off the bat is an efficiency issue. If the company offers a company card and everybody puts their stuff on the company card, then it's easier to review and monitor. If they put stuff on their personal card and then they have to turn in for to be reimbursed, somebody has to go in and do that. Somebody has to handle the reimbursement. It's a lot more work and it's a lot less efficient. Also, and I'm not going to go into it now because I don't want to spend, the rest of our time together here, which I'm aiming at an hour, of the rest of our time together talking about all the different frauds, but allowing people to use their personal card enables certain types of game playing and certain frauds. And there are a number of them, but like I say, I'm going to spare you all. We're not going to go through that now. Now, the second part, I guess the person has heard me speak before and they kind of knew what I was going to answer. They say, well, if you have a company card, can't the person put a personal purchase on the company card? And of course, the answer to that is yes. You'd be looking at me like I had three heads if I said no, they couldn't do that. So here's how you address that issue. Number one, when somebody's given a card, many organizations, and I would suggest all of you should be doing that, is you have a cardholder agreement, which the person signs, and it spells out their roles and responsibilities related to the card, how often they're supposed to reconcile, etc. And it also should include a statement that says if they use the card inappropriately, they can be fired immediately. And obviously, putting a personal purchase on the company card and trying to get the company to pay for it is an inappropriate use. Now, I'm not saying if somebody pulls the wrong card and they charge a meal or they charge a $25 purchase on Amazon, for example, that you should go ahead and fire them. No, let the punishment fit the crime. Also, was it an honest mistake? Also, how often has this happened? Is this the first time or is this an ongoing issue that you have with this person? So you want to keep that in consideration. Now, one other issue I want to talk about related to that. Some organizations will allow their employees to put personal purchases on the company card and then reimburse the company. Number one, really inefficient way to go about this. You really should not be doing that. It also requires extra work for somebody to review, for somebody to make sure you got reimbursed, etc. So if at all possible, get that out of your policy. You're creating extra work and you're opening the door up because now you're saying, okay, it's okay. Go ahead and put the stuff on. And now they might forget. And honestly, they might forget. If it was me, I'd probably forget. So just don't go down that road at all if you can possibly do it. Okay. How can I network? I work in an area where there are only a few companies and I don't know any other AP folks. And by the way, this is an issue not only if you work in an area where there are only a few other companies, but if you work in a larger environment also. Some of us don't have the opportunity to get out there. So I would suggest that one great place to network is to get on LinkedIn, to have a LinkedIn profile, to occasionally post, to link to other professionals, and then to comment on other people's postings. There are also some AP groups, accounts payable groups. There's many groups, accounts payable, accounting, whatever you might be interested in. There's a group on LinkedIn, so you might want to consider that, and then reach out. Start sending out invitations to link. You want to send out, obviously to people but once you get through, if you're like my kids, once you get through, your mother, your aunt, your friends, the people you went to school with, think about whether or not you want to link to your boss. Okay, remember they can see everything that you post. So if you're going to put up there looking for a new job, you might want to think about that. But also look for other people in your field, or if you see somebody who's posted something, link to them, comment, say, I saw you said yada, yada, yada. I agree, I disagree, here's why. You can start the conversation. So there are online opportunities for you. And of course, if you get the opportunity to go to a live session, that's great also. But Yeah, okay. Will we be able to listen to this again? I believe so. I believe we are planning on posting this on YouTube once we're finished. But again, this is our trial session. So if you want to be able to listen to it, thumbs up, send us an email. We love to hear what you have to say about it. What are the best places to learn about accounts payable that are free? So there are definitely free places. Obviously, you're here, you're listening to me. We're on YouTube, and that's free. You can look at the AP Now channel. Look on. You can look there. You can also look at some of the stuff on LinkedIn. You can look for articles on our AP Now website. We have some. We do post some articles. Sign up for our e-zine, and just look around. But also be aware that, especially when it comes to technical and legal and regulatory issues, expect to have to pay something. A lot of it isn't free, but is a bit free. Okay. Okay, this is kind of interesting. And speaking of free, it says, why should I attend vendor webinars? Aren't they just sales pitches? And the answer to that is some of them are and some of them aren't. Some vendors are really smart about it, and when they have a webinar, they have an educational component. I know because I've done some of them, and I'm really strict about that, as are some other professionals. But also, you want to learn how their process works. So if they're going to do a demo, maybe you want to stick around and watch that demo, because it's a lot easier to watch the demo as a group online than if you have a one-on-one session. And you can learn a lot. And I'm going to tell you, I learn a lot from the vendors, especially when it comes to technology, because they know it better than anybody else. Okay, how much does an AP Now membership cost? And the answer is it depends. It depends upon what level of a membership you get. You can get our e-zine and access to these YouTube videos for free. But then we have varying levels of membership. They go from $167 a year to $1297. You can look on our website, www.ap-now.com, where it says become a member. If you click on that, there is a spreadsheet that shows it. We also have a video on here that explains what's included in a platinum membership. It's a few months old, so you might have to, go down a little bit in the videos, but it's there. Or send me an email, and I'm happy to send you the link. Okay. Do you think we'll have another period like 2020 in the future, and what will it mean for AP, accounts payable, and accounting, and the rest of the business community? Unfortunately, I fear that we will, and I'm praying, literally praying right now, that next period is not this Delta variant that forces us all back into our houses again. I want to travel. So yes, I think we'll have something happen. I'm hoping it won't be soon, but we have to be prepared for it. And there's no excuse not to be prepared. We should have our protocols in place for working from home, because if we don't, we're going to be scrambling. And I fear that the next time, just like we'll be better prepared to take care of it, crooks will be better prepared to take advantage of us. So, yes, I do think, I hope it's not soon, but I fear. But I think honestly, most people did a really good job under very trying circumstances, and we should all be giving ourselves a pat on the shoulder for that. Okay. Why do you recommend mandatory? By the way, and because I think that this will happen again, I don't necessarily mean COVID, but something like it. I mean, even if we just have weather or a train strike, I think it's really important that we have our protocols in place for when it does. Okay. Why do you recommend mandatory vacations for everybody who works in AP? Aside from the fact that it's good to take time off from work from a HR standpoint and a health standpoint, it's a fraud protection. To be totally blunt about it, it is a fraud protection protocol. Everyone should take 5 consecutive days off. They shouldn't do their job. Somebody else will do the job should do their job while they're out. And the idea behind this is if there's an ongoing fraud that they are facilitating by being in the office, which happens, then hopefully the fraud will unravel in 5 days. So making them take the time off and then letting them do their job from home is not going to get you the control that you need. So that's why. And I know nobody likes to think that any of their people will steal from them, and most of them won't. I mean, 99.75%, even more, won't. But when it happens, it's devastating. Plus, by the way, it's good for you folks to take their vacation time. Okay. As I mentioned, this is a trial session. So if you like this type of program, please give us a thumbs up or send publisher@ap-now.com an email to let us know what you thought. Okay. You recommend an annual review of accomplishments. When should you do this? What I like to recommend, and what I always did when I worked in the corporate world, was I did it a little before the time that I knew management was going to be looking at raises. So if I worked at a place where everybody got an annual review and a raise at year end, and I knew that the money was allocated in the beginning of November, then I would do it in October. Other places that I worked, we got we got a review and a raise, hopefully a raise, 1 year from the last time we got a raise. So initially it would start off 1 year from your hire date, and then I would work that into the conversation. But even if you get it then, keep in mind that the money is probably allocated all at one time and probably at the end of your fiscal year, for the start of the new fiscal year. So just keep that in mind when you're planning it. But I definitely recommend a review of your accomplishments. You may forget what you do if you don't do it on an annual basis, and your boss certainly should. And it's a good idea. I mean, you don't want to be that braggart, oh, look at me, I did this, I did that. But you also want to make sure they don't forget. And if you are listening to this and you are a woman, the odds are high you're not great at pointing out all your accomplishments or making sure everybody recognizes them. So not only do it for yourself, but do it for your team. Okay. When is AP this week, and will you be doing anything special? So as the person who asked the question knows, we at AP Now celebrate AP Week every October. And this year we're going to celebrate it October 11th through the 15th. And what we do is each day of the week, we try and have something special. So we do typically do a free webinar. We may do, I don't know what we're going to do this year. We're thinking about doing possibly to something like this, and then we'll maybe give an article away, or we'll have a quiz. I think once we had a cartoon drawn, something that hopefully helps you with your career, but also advances your knowledge of AP. That's what we try and do. So yes, we're going to do it. We're looking forward to it, and we hope you'll all participate. We'll announce it in our e-zine, and you can sign up for that e-zine if you're not already signed up. Just go to www.ap-now.com. That's our website, and you'll see a box to the top left, or just wait 5 seconds and a drop-down box appears. But anyway, we hope you'll all participate. We have a lot of fun doing that. Okay. I know you're not a fan of paper checks. That is an understatement. When do you think we'll be done with them in the U.S.? So when do I think we're going to be done with them in the U.S.? Not soon, okay, and definitely not soon enough. We continue to be, married to our paper checks in the U.S. Consumers are pretty good about paying their bills electronically, paying them online, even though when they pay them online, the bank sometimes sends out paper checks, but that's another story. When it comes to making B2B payments, about half the B2B payments in the U.S. are now made electronically, but the other half are still made primarily by paper checks. And so I thought, to be perfectly honest, when COVID first hit, I thought, this is it. They're going to see the light. Everybody's going to see the light. And some people did. And we did see an increase in the number of electronic payments being made. But when I talked to Rob Unger from Nacha. He says, it wasn't the tsunami that we were hoping for. So I think they're going to be around for a while, and for a long while, unfortunately. And we just have to keep on top of it, because, as you know, most common type of attempted fraud, not necessarily successful, but attempted payment fraud, has to do with paper checks. Okay. Here's an interesting question, and I'm kind of interested in what you would answer to this. If you had a choice of taking an accounting course or an Excel class, which would you take? And of course, I assume the person who's asking this is assuming that I need help in both areas, which they may not be far off, because I believe you can never know enough about almost any topic. So the answer is it's a hard call. It's definitely a difficult call, but I might be tempted to go with Excel, because personally, I think my analytical skills could use a little help. But that's a personal choice, and both are important. You might decide, you know what, I'll take the accounting course because I think there's enough stuff online about Excel that I can take. So you have to make up your mind. But really, if you need any help on your analytical skills, it's going to be the wave of the future. It's data. It's all about data, data, data. Okay. And you want to be in the position to be able to advance it, and to know as much as possible and use it as you can. Don't forget to submit your questions. I'm keeping an eye on, that's what I'm checking here. Every time you see me look away, I'm just looking for either online or see what emails we have coming in. Okay. What is the most overlooked best practice you see? So probably the most overlooked best practice that I see relates to job rotation, people rotating invoice processes in their accounts payable function, along with taking mandatory vacations. For some reason, companies, these are things that don't cost anything to implement. So, why not go ahead and do it? But people will say either, oh, we're too small, which, by the way, if you have more than one person processing invoices, that really doesn't hold water. Or we don't think it's necessary, and I just, I kind of pray. Or our people take all their vacations, so we don't really, our issue is that people want to take more vacation rather than less vacation. Okay, and I can understand that, but just make sure that they're taking 5 consecutive days off and somebody is doing their job for them while they're out. Sometimes what people will do, and I have to admit I'd be tempted to do this, if they do not have a summer vacation planned, they'll say, well, I'm going to take every Friday off. And that's great, except from that control standpoint. Okay. Oh, I like this question. If I want to be interviewed on the podcast, how would I go about getting on? Okay, so we're always looking for people with good information to share. And I have to tell you that when I talk to practitioners and people just like you, inevitably, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got some good information to share. So what I would say is email me, just send me publisher at ap-now.com, and say, I want to be on the podcast. We did this particular thing. We did that particular thing. And, I would like to come on and talk about it. And we'll see if it fits in with our protocol and what we've got planned. But we're very, very interested in practitioners, people, end users, people who work in accounts payable and accounting. Vendors, we have on occasionally. Some of them have some really good information to share, but we don't allow sales pitches. So just keep that in mind. But yes, if you're a practitioner, or if you just want to, a little practice in public speaking, if you send me an email and we have a quick conversation, I bet you I can pull a story out of you, because everybody I talk to is doing something interesting, even though they don't always focus on it themselves. Okay. You say that most vendors don't return duplicate payments unless asked. Aren't they embarrassed? So, you know what? That's a good question, and I would think so. I mean, but apparently not. Okay, so the answer to that is apparently not. And some of them, to be fair, while they haven't, come and, sent the check back, for example, if you paid twice by check, they will give you a credit on your on your account. And if you ask for a vendor statement and insist that they include all open activity, you'll find it there. So they're not embarrassed. So just, that ship sailed. If you're hoping on the embarrassment factor, the answer to that is no. But many of them, most of them will return it, and many have given you credit. So that's another reason why I make a big to-do about getting vendor statements and reviewing them. And I talked, speaking of practitioners, to Stuart Griffith, who's actually from the UK, but he's a big proponent of getting vendor statements, and it was a real short interview. It was I think it was less than 3 minutes. So look for it on here, and he talks a little bit about why you should do it and the benefits. But no, they're not embarrassed. Basically, you can forget that, and most of them won't overtly return it. Some will give vendor credits, but those vendor credits often get lost, or they don't tell you about them, or heavens forbid, in a few circumstances, your processes don't recognize what a vendor credit is, and when they get it in, they think it's an invoice and they pay it. So now if the company owed you $100, they now owe you $200. Okay, I'll stop about that. So the really simple answer to the question, no, they're not embarrassed. Okay, we're coming down toward the end of the questions that I have. So if you have one that you want to ask, just post it on YouTube there in either the comment or the comment section or the chat function, or email publisher@ap-now.com. Okay, publisher@ap-now.com. Okay. What skills will be most in demand moving forward for both AP and accounting? Okay, so there's two things that I want to focus on. You're probably not going to be surprised to hear me say that analytical skills are going to be a big player. That's why I'm constantly harping about Excel, which, don't forget, that also means Google Sheets. Okay, analytical skills, really important. And it's where accounts payable can kind of get a seat at the table, can work with other departments, can participate. But the other area is what I call specialized knowledge. And, for accounts payable, that means 1099s. It can mean also all the other regulatory issues. We don't make much of it a big deal, and nobody else does either, about soft management skills, but they are important. But in all likelihood, they're not going to, this pains me to say this, not going to get you the job. You need to have, your good knowledge of AP. You need to have good ideas, be able to implement new ideas, and also regulatory. So regulatory issues is another way that you can distinguish yourself. So the specialized knowledge, and there could be new areas coming up. I don't know what they are, unfortunately, but just just stay on top of things. Okay. Here's our last question, and it's a good one. What are the biggest issues facing accounts payable that most people are not talking about? We talk about the fraud, we talk about the analytics, automation, we talk about that quite a bit. Okay, but I think the area that people don't talk about, and maybe we should be spending more time on, and we should focus a little bit on, is we've got this automation coming. Okay, it's removing a lot of the transactional work, a lot of the processing work within the accounts payable department. But we still got people, good people, talented people, and we need to start talking about training, retraining, or what they like to call upskilling, not only for the staff, but for yourself as well, okay? Think how much work that you do. Just look at your own job. How much of that work is going to go away because of automation? how much of it will be replaced by new things that you'll have to do, maybe created by the automation, because there are a lot of new jobs coming in. And one of the statistics that I see is, I forget what the exact numbers are, but it's something like 1.7 million jobs will be eliminated because of automation, but 1.9 million jobs will be added. So you've got to get yourself into that added group and see. So we need training for ourselves, obviously, and for our staff. And then what can we do to upskill, more analytical, et cetera. So we need to start planning for the future. Now, the other issue, people are starting to talk about this, but only a little bit, and we're certainly not talking about it in accounts payable, is, and you've probably seen the statistics that have come out, but a number of people, and they say a large number of people, are not returning to their jobs. They don't want to go back to the office. They don't want to go back to whatever the situation was that they were in. They liked working remotely, and so they're looking to change jobs. So we're seeing a large number of job openings because people are quitting. So my question to you is, okay, people are quitting. Maybe you're requiring everybody to come back to the office, and you have people who not only don't want to come back to the office, but manage to find a job with someone who either doesn't require they go into the office at all, or requires that they only go in 1 day a week or 1 day a month. So we're going to see a lot of flux in the business world in general, and specifically also in accounts payable. Are you prepared if a key person leaves? Okay. If your best processor, or God forbid, your accounts payable manager leaves, are you prepared? Do you have backup? Is anyone trained? Let me ask you the other $1 million question. Is your policy and procedures manual updated? And is it updated to include whatever changes you made that had to be made to accommodate this now remote work? Does it have all the internal controls? So, was it updated to include the protocols that you want to have in place when your team works from home? So you want to start looking around, looking at what's going on, and say to yourself, okay, what backup, what planning do we need? What do we need to get ready? Not only if we have another COVID, but also if one of our key people leaves. Okay, you don't want to be left holding the bag. So I ask you, what have you done to get ready? Have you updated your policy and procedures manual? Have you talked to folks about this? Okay. So that's it, folks. Remember, this is a trial section. And I really do want to know what you think. Did you like it? Did you not like it? So you can send us an email, publisher@ap-now.com, or just give us a thumbs up if you liked it. This helps us in our future planning. So if you like this type of program, let us know, because we want to produce the programs that you're interested in hearing. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.